Understanding how taxes work when you're retired is really important, but also understanding how IRS or taxes are going to play into your retirement even after you've passed away is equally as important, especially when trying to take care of a loved one when you've passed. Stick with me throughout this video and I'm going to give you a tip or two to better understand how taxes work in retirement time and taxes work even after you pass away. I'm Micah Shilanski and this is the FERS Federal Fact Check. So today we have a question from Mike, and what Mike asks, if one of my priorities is to provide for my spouse after I'm gone, and my strategy is to leave the TSP untouched and will it to her, is that going into the OI, ordinary income bucket, or would she get it all? I ask because I'm about a decade older and have a pretty good Roth IRA that will carry me all the way to 70, where I can start drawing the max Social Security payments. I've really enjoyed all of your videos and I share them with many friends. I hope you can answer this question. Mike, that is an excellent question. And this is kind of a common thing that I see with federal employees and a lot of other people as well about what is the best way to leave benefits to your spouse that's there. Now, first we got to understand some order of operations that's there. Number one is when you pass away, things first transfer by title. So how are your accounts owned? Like the TSP is owned just in your name and it can't be with a spouse or anyone else. So it's just your name. So if there's no one else on the name, on the title, then the second places things transfer to is by beneficiary designation. Beneficiary designation is where you have the opportunity to list a primary and a contingent person or people on there to leave your money to directly. If it's not by title or beneficiary designation, then it goes through the probate process, and that's where your will is going to come in order to dispense your assets. So once we understand that order of operations, now we have to think about taxes. And taxes are an important thing to think about in retirement time to make sure you don't have to overpay, or your spouse especially doesn't have to overpay. So Mike, your question was really good and was talking about our tax buckets. And if we remember, our first one is our ordinary income tax bucket, which is the worst type of tax to pay, because this is where you can pay anywhere between 0 and almost 40%. About 37% of your income can be taxed at ordinary income levels. And the other bucket we have is called our tax deferred bucket. I know we got two other buckets that we talk about in our special class we put together called the 3 critical concepts, but for right now we're going to talk about these two. So ordinary income is like your paycheck that comes in, you get on a W-2. It's your retirement check that comes on a 1099-R. Those types of things. Now, if you don't want to pay ordinary income taxes, we pay then we do tax deferred investing, and that's like putting money in your TSP. When you put money in your TSP into the pre-tax portion, we don't have to pay taxes on it today. It's going to grow and defer just like it potentially would in an IRA account or in a 401k account. But when we go to take that money out, we have to pay taxes on it at ordinary income. And it's pretty much across the board with TSP. When you pull out money from your TSP account, it comes out as ordinary income, unless of course it's in the Roth TSP. But there's a little caveat, you gotta be really careful here with Mike, and that's what your comment was, if you will her the money. So remember our order of operations we talked about just a minute ago. Things transferred by title, by beneficiary designation, then by will, by that probate process. Well, if you go automatically to the will, then more than likely, fair disclosure, I'm not an attorney, never went to law school, but pretty good probability if you pass it by will, your wife is going to have your TSP account, it goes to her via will, but then she's going to have to take out all of that money in one lump sum or over 5 years. She has the choice, a lump sum or over 5 years, and she has to pay taxes on that money at ordinary income, which is the worst type of tax to pay. So let's throw some numbers on this. Let's say you have a TSP account worth, $500,000 that's there. You pass away and it comes to her and she takes it all out all in 1 year. That's a tremendous amount of money that she's going to have to pay in income taxes because you willed it to her. So one of the things you almost all the time want to do. Everyone's a little different. This is like a 98% rule though. You want to have your spouse as your primary beneficiary. So you don't want to will them the money. You want to leave it to them as a primary beneficiary. The difference in this scenario is huge, especially because between yourself and your spouse, you said there's an age difference that's there. For a spousal beneficiary, if she is named as your beneficiary and you pass away, she now has many choices that she can do. It's not just take it all out in one lump sum or take it out over 5 years, she can actually choose to keep the money in your name and leave it there and take money out as needed. She could transfer that into her name as her IRA account and then choose that when she's gonna take it out based on her age. So she has so many more options for taxes that empowers your wife to decide when it's best and how she can take out the money and how it's going to be taxed, or at least at what percentage rate, because of how much she pulls out. So Mike, that's a great question. And one of the things you always need to go back and check are what are your beneficiary designations. You know, this year as I'm looking at it and all the clients we brought on and helped for new clients this last year, I think every single one of them had an issue with beneficiaries. And this is common with most people I meet. Most people have at least one, if not more, beneficiaries incorrect in their retirement plan. So really important to go back and look, because what can happen is you could take a great asset that you saved for your entire life, that TSP, you could will it to your spouse to make sure they're taken care of, and the government comes in and takes in a third of it plus state taxes on top of that. So you really got to be careful about those beneficiary designations. Thank you so much for that question. And if you have a question like this as well, just scroll down and submit it to us. And then your question too might be featured in the FERS Federal Fact Check. Until next time, I'm Micah Shilanski. Happy planning.